positions at our university. These are senior leadership roles, and they are there to provide service to our scholars, artists, and researchers, and anybody else who's engaged in our research, scholarly, and artistic enterprise. And lots of the work that we do actually links us back to the land that we inhabit and land which we always acknowledge that this is the land of the Treaty 6 territories, and this is the land which was the homeland of the Métis, and many First Nations communities had this land, and we are privileged to share that land with them. As a community of learners at University of Saskatchewan, we are committed to learning better ways, good ways to engage with the First Nations and our Métis ancestors of this place. And we do pay our respects and also reaffirm our relationship with each other. So that piece of understanding the land, it connects us to a much longer and more rich history, and so reflecting on that for a moment is always a good idea for all of us to undertake. Today's presentation is part of the several presentations. 3 of them took place yesterday. This is the 4th one. And as I mentioned, these are part of the search and the selection process within the policies for those searches and selections at University of Saskatchewan. And the 2 positions that are there, one is the Associate VP Engagement, another one is the Associate VP Research, Ethics and Infrastructure. And Dr. Tikoo is presenting today. Many of you, or maybe all of you, know Dr. Tikoo and his stellar career at University of Saskatchewan. I had many opportunities to work with him on graduate supervisory committees because he was leading the graduate programs in vaccinology, for example. And so we had many interactions over the past, as I had with the other 3 candidates who presented yesterday. During the 25-minute or so presentation, please keep your microphones on mute and also turn off your cameras. If you encounter any technical issues, please quickly email or send a message to Christopher Martin, whom you all know, and he will help us with that. After the presentation, I will provide more comments on how to provide feedback to the selection and the search committee, and because that is a very vital and critical part of the selection process, your input. And to further facilitate that, the presentation and the question answers from today will be recorded, put up on the website where we have been sharing information on the search and the selection process. And please also encourage your colleagues who have not been able to attend today to listen to the presentation and also provide feedback to the committee. And towards the end, we will provide a link as to where that feedback can be provided. The search committee has come up with a 2-part question which each of the candidates is addressing. And Dr. Tikoo is a candidate for Associate Vice President Engagement. And the question is, what are the greatest challenges and opportunities related to research, scholarly, and artistic work at the University of Saskatchewan? And given that, how will your leadership as AVPR engagement help us become the university the world needs? So with that, I welcome and invite Dr. Tikoo to begin his presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Tikoo, for putting your name forward and for this very important position at our university. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Baljit Singh. I would also like to thank selection committee members for giving me the opportunity to present my views about research, scholarly and artistic work at the University of Saskatchewan. Before I start, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that in Canada, we live, learn, and work on traditional Indigenous territories. The University of Saskatchewan is on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We respect the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our commitment to respectful relationships with one another and this land. Just briefly about my education, I did my bachelor's in veterinary science and animal husbandry and master's in veterinary science in veterinary microbiology from Pantnagar Agricultural University in India. And I did my PhD from veterinary microbiology at University of Saskatchewan. I was appointed as a research scientist at VIDO in 1993 and was promoted to Scientist 4 in 2001. Currently, I'm working as senior scientist and research fellow at VIDO Intervac. In 2008, I was appointed as tenured professor in the School of Public Health. Since 2011, I am also appointed as shared member of the veterinary microbiology. During this course, I have held a couple of administrative positions. Initially, I was program manager and coordinator for virology group at VIDO Intervac, where I represented group as a member of science management team and acted as liaison between science management and the virology group members in VIDO. I was also appointed as director of vaccinology immunotherapeutics program, which I am still continuing. My overall activities included establishment and revising policies for admissions and scholarships. I also worked as graduate chair, thesis-based programs, and interim assistant executive director, School of Public Health. I was responsible for supervising overall activities of 4 graduate thesis-based programs, Biostat, EPI, MPH thesis, and V&I program. As interim associate executive director of School of Public Health, I was involved in development of policies, constitution of research committee, and transparent application review process for award of research funds, and development of policy for faculty with the spousal arrangements, acting as members of graduate student advisory committee. And finally, as interim executive director, School of Public Health, I was responsible for completing application for successful grant of tenure and promotions to 3 faculty members, coordinated the selection of potential faculty for joint appointment in School of Public Health and School of Environmental Sciences, and streamlining the teaching duties of faculty and teaching associates for teaching in the School of Public Health. As far as my background goes, I was born and raised in India. I have lived more in Saskatchewan, about 35 years, than in India, 31 years. So I believe I have become a prairie man. I'm married with 2 children, and I have participated mostly in team sports like soccer and cricket, and even I have captained my university soccer team in inter-university tournaments. I was really fortunate to get a chance to work at VIDO Intervac, where I learned the value of collaboration, interdisciplinary research, sharing and working together as a team, value of innovation, and the value of equity, diversity, and inclusiveness. Today, I'm going to speak on the topic given to me is what are the greatest challenges and opportunities related to research, scholarly, and artistic work at the University of Saskatchewan. And how will your leadership as Associate Vice President Research Engagement help us become the university the world needs? As everybody knows, research plan contains 3 commitments: courageous curiosity, boundless collaboration, and inspired communities. I'm fully in support of these commitments and would work to achieve most of these commitments. It describes in length what we want to achieve. So I'm not going to go in detail about the plan. Instead, I will attempt to put forth some suggestions as to how we can achieve some of these goals for discussion. As everybody knows, conducting of research requires researchers, trainees, infrastructure, and support staff. However, the availability of funding is essential for any research activity. As you can see, in the last 4 funding cycles, amount has fluctuated between 18 to 57 million. Although some fluctuation is due to one-time payments, Tri-Council funding has dropped about 25 to 30%. Moreover, over the years, University of Saskatchewan placement for research funding has fluctuated between 10 to 15 out of top 50 Canadian universities. To be a startup university, we need to aim for University of Saskatchewan to be placed at least in the top 5 out of top 50 Canadian universities. One way to make it possible is by helping in constantly increasing the amount of research funding available to University of Saskatchewan. This will not only help in conducting cutting-edge research, but also help in recruiting world-class scientists and students. As I said, we should aim for sky. We should not be afraid. And if we aim for sky, we can reach Mount Everest. So what are the opportunities we have at the University of Saskatchewan? The first aim is to fully utilize our existing opportunities. We have world-class facilities in Canadian light source, Video Intervac, and plant science genomic facility. We have a number of research areas falling in top 5 in U15 universities, including water resources, One Health, infectious disease and vaccines, crop science, and energy and engineering. A number of research areas fall in top 100 in 2000 global ranking. Water resources, environmental science and engineering, veterinary science and agriculture sciences. We also have unique opportunities at University of Saskatchewan. We have a number of collaborative interdisciplinary institutes to help in conducting world-class research. Few are listed here. For example, Food Security Institute, Center for Nuclear Innovation, Minerals Innovation Institute, Center for Patient-Oriented Research. We have emerging collaborative and interdisciplinary groups, for example, Clinical Research Trial Group, Canadian Research Cannabis.
Dr. Tikoo, just for a sec. Are you sharing a presentation with us or just speaking?
I'm sharing a presentation with you.
No, I'm not seeing that.
I'm sorry.
No, let's, yes, suddenly I thought I should ask.
I don't know how, sorry, just let me.
Now I see it.
Should I go back?
No, I think that's okay. If we can take your presentation, maybe share it later on with the audience,
Sure.
if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry
no, but I was able to understand what you were saying. I suddenly realized that sometimes people speak without a presentation. I thought maybe that's what you're doing, but then I thought I should ask.
Thank you for correcting me. I'm really sorry. We have emerging collaborative interdisciplinary groups. For example, Clinical Research Trial Group, Cannabis Research Cluster, Saskatchewan Center for Patient-Oriented Research. We have a number of partnerships already in place, MITAC, Global Network of Research Intensive Universities, and NCTR, National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. We have a number of research areas placed in top 5 among U15 Canadian universities. Aerospace engineering, material science and engineering, remote sensing, and public administration. So this gives us additional avenues for research and puts up in a unique environment of conducting world-class research. However, to fulfill the commitments, we have a number of challenges. If not tackled, could frustrate our efforts of achieving our goals. I can't forward. Martin, I can't forward.
Chris, you are on mute.
Sorry, Dr. Tikoo. You now have Microsoft Teams open. If you minimize that, you should have your PowerPoint in the background.
Minimize from where?
If now you've stopped sharing your PowerPoint. Perfect. Now, see if you can just switch the slide by pressing one of the arrow buttons on your keyboard.
That's what I'm trying to do, but it's not working.
Okay. If you click the PowerPoint application at the bottom of your screen.
PowerPoint.
To the left.
Here?
Correct. Click that. Now, if you hit your arrow, it should allow you to navigate it. Does that allow you to?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry. So as I said, to get success in the opportunities we have, we need to face and we need to remove some challenges. First one is the development and implementation of policies effectively. Creating university-based research teams, process of selection of signature areas, research funding, indigenization, recognition of scholarly artistic work and community engaged research, challenges for collaborative and interdisciplinary research, and reward research excellence, innovation, and finally, evaluation of the programs. The first challenge is about policies and decisions. I believe that this is the most important process in developing confidence and increasing active faculty participation. Development of an effective policy requires to listen carefully and discuss before the formulation. The developed policy should be effectively communicated and adjusted for any relevant feedback. Policy implementation requires involvement of relevant people in a transparent way. And finally, after a fixed time interval, the impact of the policy should be analyzed and made accordingly if necessary. The first challenge is in creation of university-based teams. In order to facilitate research, it's important to know the research strengths in our departments and colleges and schools. In consultation with the college school leaders, we should effectively communicate the need for such exercise to faculty, perform grassroots consultations and listen to researchers about their research programs, formulate the strengths and report back the decision to faculty, and get feedback and make changes if necessary. Secondly, facilitate the creation of research groups based on a common theme and led by an active, experienced researcher with active researchers as members. Moreover, create a database containing member information, CRC, CEC appointments, and funding information. Similarly, facilitate strategic faculty appointments and CRC, CEC allocations to complement existing expertise in a group. And finally, facilitate the interaction among researchers in collaborative and interdisciplinary environment by meeting every 2 to 3 months, and if possible, asking the groups to invite people from industry, from international funding agencies, and from CHR funding agencies and NSERCs, so that they get a perspective of what we have and we get the perspective of what the agencies require for funding purposes. Next is challenges about the signature areas. In consultation with relevant authorities, facilitate creation of signature areas based on identified research programs. Facilitate affiliation of potential collaborative and interdisciplinary groups as a signature area. Each signature area coordinated by an active researcher. Create a database again containing member information, CRC, CEC, and funding information. Each group or signature area are mandated to propose challenges and solutions to OVPR. And finally, OVPR facilitates oversight of research activities. Somebody recently said that culmination of interdisciplinary knowledge requires mission, physical architect, and respected leadership, which affects scholars' motivation, interaction, and inclusion in a group. Next challenge is basically about research funding. So to be successful in research funding, we need viable collaborative interdisciplinary groups. Collaborations between national and international groups enhance chances of successful grant awards. Strategic faculty appointment and CRC and CEC allocations increase chances of success. We also need what we call proactive approach with the funding agencies, government, non-for-profit, industry, community, foundations. We need a proactive approach with the University of Saskatchewan Innovation. If you can see in the last 4 or 5 years, we have reduced from 18.5 million to 3 million in innovation funds earnings. And we should provide awareness of our strengths to other researchers nationally and internationally by either connecting with them through conferences or online systems. Chances of increasing success also needs facilitating interaction of our researchers with international funding consortiums and industry partners. And finally, if possible, particularly for the innovation purposes, if possible, to determine patent status before spending years on innovating the ideas. Next challenge we have is about indigenization. Although I have not worked directly with the indigenous community, I have learned a lot from my colleagues at SPH and my daughter who works as a criminal lawyer at Legal Aid Meadow Lake, and my wife who works with indigenous children at the city of Saskatchewan. Upliftment, indigenization is one of the commitments under research strategies of University of Saskatchewan and is very important for UFS. I believe that first thing required is engaging community in building relations with them by gaining their interest. As such, we should facilitate relation building between researcher and community. At present, indigenous research appears scattered all over the university community. So there is a need to bring all research related to indigenous people under one umbrella. This will help in creating a real interdisciplinary group for attracting funds and lead to effective use of resources, funds, and grant writing support. I think there needs to be more communication about different aspects of indigenous research and community engagements with the faculty and the students at the university. We have to facilitate consultations with different groups, centers, institutes in or out of university to develop research focus and support for indigenous health research. If you can see, we have a number of these institutes working in different colleges or different schools. So it's better to organize them together under one umbrella. Finally, this area may need appointment of new faculty, CRC, CEC allocation, and seed money to rigorously evaluated proposals. Another challenge we have is in the partnerships. It's very important to develop partnerships with industry, government, and community leaders. If you know, 83% of total partnerships in Canadian universities are held by U15. We need to find ways of increasing partnership funding, particularly corporate research funding. We need to work in two areas for developing partnerships with industry, government, and community partners. First thing is facilitate the creation of a research advisory group or task force or a board of directors to help in establishing the relations with these agencies, which is very important for future success. And secondly, facilitate proactive approach, identify the need of the industry and communicate our strengths to industry. What I mean is that rather than industry approach us, we approach industry and find out what they need and what we can offer to them. Another challenge is at the present time is support for emerging groups with potential for research excellence. We should also keep on evaluating the potential of newly established research groups based on some developed indicators. If there are new groups with potential, we should facilitate in identifying need for additional researchers, students, the sources of funding, and support for award of funding. Another challenge has been and is in the individual grants. Although appointment of tri-council grant leaders and internal review process has helped to increase the discovery grant funding, total funding amounts are still low. I believe we can improve amount of funding by facilitating the review of grants, mainly by faculty who have acted as grant review panel members. Some sort of remuneration may increase the interest. Facilitate building a consensus about requirement of award of tri-council grant in first 3 years of new appointments in some areas, maybe not all. Facilitate strategic recruitment of faculty, CRC, CEC, which should help in getting more tri-council grants. As everybody knows, at the end of the day, CV of an individual matters. And facilitate the review of unsuccessful grants based on some performance indicators for awarding bridge money to these unsuccessful applicants. As far as collaborative grants and institutional grants, it appears to me that the existing selection review process appears working. However, facilitating interaction of applicants with the current or ex grant selection committee members and knowledge about committee members should help in increasing the chance of success. Scholarly artistic work and community engaged research. This has been one of the areas where there has been number of concerns and number of problems in executing the policies. One of them is the recognition and the funding. Based on my experience in talking to my colleagues and working as a member of President's Review Committee, two areas appear to be of concern for scholarly artistic work and community engagement. One is funding and second is recognition. In order to thoroughly know about the challenging facing this area of research and possible solution available, there's a need to set up an expert panel of active researchers so that wide consultations by this panel with stakeholders could help in identifying ways of enhancing research funding and set parameters for encouragement of the work. And one of the challenges I have seen while working in a collaborative, interdisciplinary, and innovative research is the recognition of work. I have given a couple of these examples of collaborative and interdisciplinary work. What happens is that what I have seen is that while PI from parent department, college, or school gets recognition for funding, co-PI's department, college, school does not get recognition for funding. I think some changes have been made, but we still require to really fully adopt this process so that the work done by people as co-PIs from different departments, colleges, and schools is equally recognized for tenures, for promotions, for merits, for any recognition. And secondly, there is a recognition is also based on who pays PIs or co-PIs or co-investigators' salary. And so this also has to be looked into because at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, salary is paid by the university. Sometimes collaborative interdisciplinary efforts are not counted for merit. So that has to be looked into. And one of the other areas which can hamper the collaborative interdisciplinary research efforts is the availability or the non-availability of the database. So we need to create a database where most of the informations are present for the groups and for the signature areas or for any collaborative or interdisciplinary research group so that at once all the members know what is happening and what is available and what's not available. Another thing I believe is the reward research excellence and innovation. I believe that research in excellence and innovation should be rewarded. And this should be based on measurable indicators. For example, I have given 3 examples, but there can be any based on what area we are considering the reward. Number of externally funded grants, number of patents awarded, and quality of HQP. And finally, for a successful program of innovation and from successful policies and procedures, all should be evaluated every 3 to 5 years. Evaluate internal funding mechanisms every 3 to 5 years. Develop and use indicators of success of policy in consultation with the stakeholders. For example, internal funding, international travel, international research partnership program funds, and research support fund. And make sure that these changes, if are made and if necessary, and this is done in consultation with the stakeholders. So I presented some opportunities, some challenges, and a few suggestions which I believe may help in tackling some of the obstacles. The question arises what I can bring to this position so that OVPR achieves the research goals. I have my involvement in strategic faculty recruitment, both at Vido Intervac and School of Public Health. I have a very strong research portfolio. I have published about 142 papers, peer-reviewed papers, mostly in journals with impact factors 3 to 5.54. I have got funding for over 15 million as PI and co-PI, and I have got grants from provincial, national, and international granting agencies, biotech industry, and producer groups. I have been involved in innovation. I have 50 awarded patents, and these 3 of these technologies have been licensed to companies by Vido. I have research collaborations developed with academia, government, local, national, and international bodies, and biotech industry. I have been member and reviewer for granting agencies for provincial, national, and international agencies. I have been involved in teaching of graduate courses, and I have acted thesis external examiner for more than 10 PhD and master's theses. I have a very strong supervision record. I have supervised executive assistant at the School of Public Health and have supervised or am supervising 22 students, 30 postdocs, 2 scientists, 3 visiting scientists, and 4 visiting students. I have been member of a number of different committees at the University of Saskatchewan, and I have been involved in development of policies for a number of groups in Vido as well as School of Public Health. So research plan 2018 and 2025. I believe that some of the presented suggestions coupled with my experience could help in achieving the goals and meeting the aspirations of OVPR model research and university's strategic plan. What I see the role of an associate vice president at research, I see his or her role as a facilitator. Facilitate the advancement of strategic initiatives of OVPR in consultation and on behalf of VP Research, act as liaison between OVPR and leaders of academic units, centers, and other stakeholders inside or outside the university, and act as a resourceful person, provide leadership, expertise, and oversight to different programs as determined by VP Research. Successful achievement of goals of OVPR University of Saskatchewan strategic plan will depend on defined policies, decisions making transparent and in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, following university's plan for equity, diversity, and inclusiveness, decisions communicated effectively, and timely evaluation of executed policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tikoo, and for your presentation. And now we move to the second part of the presentation, where we invite our colleagues who are attending today to ask questions, raise points for discussion. What has worked well is that if you raise your hand, the virtual hand, then Christopher or I will be able to keep an eye out on that and invite you to ask the questions. We will encourage you to ask only one question at a time and don't follow up in case there are others waiting in queue. And if there's time at the end, you sure are welcome to come back and ask follow-up questions. And so let's begin with the question, Doctor. Suresh, you could maybe Christopher, you go ahead. You have your hand up.
I was just going to say, Dr. Tikoo, could you stop sharing your screen for this part of the agenda? Thank you.
I did, right?
Right. Okay. Great. And now over to you, colleagues, for your questions and points raised from the material presented by Dr. Tikoo. Dr. Massey, Merle, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Dr. Tikoo. Thank you so much for a great presentation. It was really, really interesting to see the breadth of your knowledge and your experience across campus. Thank you for sharing that with us. I have a bit of an odd question. Can you tease out a little bit more why you put scholarly, artistic, and community engagement all together? And if you could maybe provide a bit of a definition of what you mean by scholarly and what you mean by community engagement and what you mean by artistic research. Thank you.
I think I just picked up personally. I didn't do that. I just picked up from the plan, research plan. This is how it was said there. What I understand from community engagement, for example, is that first and the foremost is, for example, indigenous community or any other community, public health community, any other community, is engagement is basically is how we try to engage with such communities. And first and the foremost, I think important question is that before we really start putting all the questions and everything, we have to develop the relationships with them, because that's very important. What happens is that with all these community engagements, we have to prove ourselves that we are worth working with those communities. With the different communities. So if we are able to prove that, only then we can go further, because we have to gain their interest. So that's what I mean by saying community engagement, because that's the first step in doing that. And second is that we have to make sure that whatever research we do, whatever we use, the materials or the stuff from community, any community, we give them back, we give them ownership, we make sure that these people feel that they also own that research. And for example, tomorrow, if I work with a community and I get the work and I patent it and I get some money also out of it, I will make sure that I tell that community that this is what we are doing and this is what you are supposed to get. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not only just getting samples or stuff like that. We have to work together as a team and make sure that they understand. As far as scholarly and artistic work is concerned, that is something which I believe, I don't know, but I believe that that has something to do with the social sciences and humanities area of research. And for example, artistic work is like art, like historians and writing a monograph or stuff like that. So that's what I believe in scholarly artistic work and the community work.
Thank you.
Hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Chris, there's again, could you read that up, please?
Dr. Tikoo, we have a question in the chat. It's from Tanya Rochenko, and her question is, what currently inspires you about USask research, and where do you want to see USask in 10 years' time?
I think, as I said, I showed you a couple of opportunities, and the latest, as far as I'm concerned, my personal latest is you can see what is happening with COVID-19 and research at University of Saskatchewan Video Intervec. So that's very exciting time that we have become, as we are leaders in water resources, we are leaders in crop sciences, we are leaders in energy, and we have now become one of the top research institutes in the world on infectious diseases and vaccines. So that really inspires me to work day in and day out. And then availability of number of these institutes like this plant genomic institutes in CDC and nuclear institute, then mineral institute, a lot of those different institutes. The other thing what really I have started liking is the new environment in the University of Saskatchewan. When I say new environment means, as I said, if you saw my presentation, what I'm talking is consultation, consultation, consultation. Second is involvement of active researcher, active researcher, active researcher. Because, and if you see what Dr. Baljit Singh and Dr. Erini are doing is consulting. And I think they have already started the process of developing signature areas. Because once you start consulting with active researchers, the grassroots, not the top ones sitting on the deans and directors, no, but the grassroots. Because if grassroots is not involved and is not part of your program, then we can develop all the policies, we can do everything, but it's not going to work. And recent example, really, I think what excited me the most was the very first time in my history of 25 years of working here, there was a online presentation organized by Andrew Van Kessel of Vido Intervac and head of department of biochemistry, microbiology, and immunology, where all the Vido scientists and all the BMI researchers were together. That's what is exciting. That's what excites me. And to your second question is about 10 years. I think, as I said, we have to try for the sky. If we don't reach the sky, at least we can get to the Mount Everest. What I see is that in the next 5 to 7 years, university should be, if all things go well and the things are done well, properly, I think it should be in the top 5 in U50 in Canada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could you, while others are thinking about next question, I could also speak to the next steps. Christopher, at some point today, will put a link in the chat which you can use to provide feedback on Dr. Tikoo's presentation and the discussion, as well as the other candidates who are speaking about their vision for these roles. And the deadline, I understand, is the September 24th for presenting those your views to the committee, and also encourage your colleagues to listen to the presentation and also provide feedback to the committee. Suresh, one of the things is that you and I come from similar scientific backgrounds in infectious disease, immunology type of areas. We have a large part of the university, which is social sciences, humanities, and artistic work. And also then outside in the community, there's a society in general that we try to engage, whether those are indigenous communities or new immigrants or any regular community. And could you speak to about, it is generally felt on campus that we do not pay as much attention to social sciences, humanities, and artistic work. How would you go about working with social scientists, humanists, and the artists on our campus? What would be your approach to support them or engage them?
See, as you said, I'm a life science guy. I'm not a that area guy. But what I have heard and what I have seen is there are two problems. One is funding and one is recognition. Recognition is also very big because when I was sitting in PRC, a application comes from life sciences and application comes from social sciences. The social science person has published a monograph in 10 years, which is the big achievement in their area. Whereas in our area, if we don't publish 3, 4, 5 papers per year, we are doomed. So the way I think we have to approach this is what we have to do is we have to first know exactly what is the problem. Where is the problem? I mean, where is the funding? And for example, there's a lot of researchers right now involved with communities outside, particularly in public health and this nutrition area, where they have engaged immigrants, they have engaged indigenous communities to determine the nutrition values of their when they come here, what happens, what they get, and what they don't get, and sort of things. So that is one area where people, I think, have to be brought together. That's another. There's another avenue, is that there are some people working in some of those social areas. What the problem is that left hand does not know the right hand. So what has to happen is that, one is that we have to know what are the problems, and second is that we have to bring people together and then really start a discussion, and that should help in really setting up collaborations and getting some money towards the scholarly and artistic areas. Because otherwise, except SHERF and some foundations, Canadian foundations, there is not much money available, to my knowledge, except community engagements.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions for Dr. Tikoo? And well, that's great. I think I can begin comments to close off this session. And if in the meantime somebody has a question or a comment, please do raise your hand. So I want to thank Suresh for putting his name forward, and the selection committee that created the shortlist and have invited Suresh to give his presentation, which he did today. And the excitement of collaboration, as he has mentioned, between, for example, Dr. Irene and I, because it takes more than one central person to support our scholars. It can't be done by one person, and it also is a role modeling piece. If four vice presidents centrally can't get together to work together, then how can we talk to others to work together? It just doesn't make any sense. And so the collaboration is the key. Luckily, we are at this academy, at this place where, as if I heard correctly, Dr. Tikoo is excited by collaboration. And so this is a very core value that University of Saskatchewan has, and we can achieve lots of things together when we put our mind together. We are no poor university. We have quite a bit of resources, our people, our students, staff, faculty, our buildings, our institutes, our infrastructure, and a government that backs us all the time, and the community in this province that feels so proud of University of Saskatchewan. So it's a fantastic place to be, and also to be associated with. So. And to see many colleagues put their name forward for these two positions is encouraging. That tells me, and these are all very active researchers. These are not the guys who are sitting around saying, gosh, what should I do tomorrow? I really don't have things in my calendar. They're very busy people, and they're stepping up to serve this academy and these roles, and they're making the job of this selection committee quite challenging as I keep on hearing their presentations. And so with your feedback, we will be able to make decisions which will serve our academy. So again, I'm coming around to the topic that please do send your feedback, encourage your colleagues to listen to their thoughtful presentations. They are really presenting stellar ideas. At the end of the day, whosoever gets the job, that doesn't mean we are not going to pick ideas from each presentation and use them at the service of the academy. We will invite these colleagues to provide more detailed information on their ideas, which we can use to serve this university. So with these words, I again am thankful to Suresh for his name, putting his name forward and presenting today, and to all of you for attending this presentation. I wish you a happy rest of the day. Tim Hortons is open at Geology. I was just there, and so we are back in action. Thank you very much, colleagues. Bye now.
Thank you very much.